Oscar Piastri's experience at the Silverstone race was anything but ordinary, leaving fans and experts scratching their heads. His recent demands to his team have only heightened the curiosity surrounding his position in the Formula One world. It's clear he's displeased with the 10-second penalty for a safety car infringement, though some might argue he could have faced harsher consequences. This situation raises the question of whether Piastri is feeling the pressure, especially with Norris performing exceptionally well. Could this be an opportunity for the British driver to outshine him? The Silverstone Grand Prix delivered the classic drama expected from a British race, complete with unpredictable weather. Drivers started on intermediate tyres as rain loomed, only for the conditions to clear up enough for them to switch to slicks by the end. The race kept everyone enthralled from start to finish. However, the most thrilling moment came during the lap 18 restart. At this point, Hadjar was out of the race following a collision with Antonelli, obscured by the thick mist of rain spray. Piastri, who had dominated the early stages and seemed untouchable, was suddenly forced to re-establish his lead over Verstappen and Norris. Yet, in a surprising turn, the Australian driver made a very unusual move. When the lights stopped flashing, he quickly stepped on the accelerator but then began braking haphazardly. This unpredictable behaviour from Piastri nearly caused Verstappen to crash. Not only that, but Max also lost focus and eventually spun out just as Piastri committed to another restart. While I'm not holding Oscar responsible for Max's mistake, it definitely impacted the four-time world champion. Regardless, it was inevitable that Piastri would face consequences for his actions. After a swift investigation, the FIA decided to give the Australian driver a 10-second penalty. Since Norris was trailing just a few tenths behind him, it meant Oscar had to settle for another second-place finish, watching Norris speed ahead. However, after the final pit stop, where drivers switched to slick tyres and Piastri served his penalty, Oscar shared a controversial thought with his race engineer, saying, "I don't think the penalty was very fair. I know it's a big question, but if you agree it wasn't I think we should swap back and race. Let's break down what Oscar was suggesting to his team, considering he was penalised for his own actions." Neither Lando Norris nor the McLaren team influenced Oscar Piastri's decision to hit the brakes hard, bringing the car to a near stop after slamming the pedal. For this move, Piastri faced a penalty which could have been a lot more severe. Instead of a stop-and-go penalty, which would have been a much harsher setback, he received a comparatively lighter 10-second pit stop. As the race progressed predictably, Norris overtook Piastri, who then requested a position change via radio. However, at that critical moment, Norris was over 5 seconds ahead and only about 5 laps remained in the race. Imagine the scene, the British driver leading at the British Grand Prix with his British team, a dream scenario, especially when winning at Silverstone is his ultimate goal. Asking him to swap places with Piastri because the penalty seemed unfair would have been unreasonable. That's not typically how decisions are made, and despite Piastri invoking team protocols, they just didn't apply here. After the race, Piastri was visibly upset, insisting he did nothing out of the ordinary while behind the safety car, yet the data told a different story. He had dropped his speed drastically from 218 km/h to 52 km/h with 60 psi of pressure on the brakes, creating one of the most erratic braking moments imaginable on the straight between turn 14 and turn 15. He didn't just receive a 10-second penalty, the Australian also got 2 points docked from his super licence. With all this happening, I'm still shocked by Piastri's surprising request and what he expected would come out of it, especially during a race in Norris' home country. If things had gone differently, he risked damaging his reputation not only with his team but also among McLaren supporters. While we might have expected such a bold move from Norris in a reverse scenario, Piastri's actions were unexpected. This situation has highlighted that Oscar might not be the flawless driver some thought he was. Now, with only an 8-point lead in the Drivers' Championship, he faces a significant challenge ahead. Reflecting on the penalty that disrupted his race, Piastri commented, "I'm not going to say much better to avoid trouble. Seems like braking behind the safety car isn't allowed now. I did it for 5 laps before. Anyway, I won to say more." The rules leave no room for ambiguity, and the FIA has made it clear that specific penalties should be handed out for certain types of driving. According to Article 55.15 of the FIA's sporting regulations, Car 81 should have maintained a steady pace without sudden braking or any other actions that might have endangered fellow drivers once the safety car lights went off. Car 81's actions clearly violated this rule, leading us to issue a 10-second time penalty based on our penalty guidelines. So what's next for Piastri and the McLaren team? It's undeniable that the main contenders for the championship title are the drivers from this Woking-based squad with little competition in sight. Verstappen's vehicle isn't quite up to par for a top 3 finish, let alone challenging McLaren at the front. Meanwhile, Ferrari has made significant progress here in Silverstone and could pose a serious threat to Max's third-place ambitions, especially since he cannot consistently count on Russell having another bad race like last Sunday. McLaren, however, has proven themselves time and again to be unaffected by varying track conditions. Whether it's dry, wet or mixed, they are here to dominate, signalling strongly their intent to claim both championships for Woking. The bigger question, however, is how Norris and Piastri will fare against each other within the team. After a slip-up in Montreal, Lando Norris has found his groove, winning the last 2 races consecutively. Meanwhile, his teammate Oscar Piastri hasn't been able to keep up with or surpass Lando, despite showing strong performances earlier this season and last year. This highlights just how capable the MCL39 is when piloted by either driver, making it difficult to predict who will come out on top since things are so evenly matched. This is when Norris needs to shine, especially since he's faced criticism for buckling under pressure and failing to deliver when it counts most. Last year, his title race against Verstappen was riddled with errors, and this season the stakes are even higher with his teammate pushing him. The toughest competitor is often the one sharing the garage with you, and with Lando hitting peak performance in recent races, the tide has turned in his favour. However, the season is far from over for both Norris and Piastri. They are the only drivers who can spice up the contest, considering Verstappen and Red Bull might decide to shift their focus to 2026 sooner rather than later, assuming Max stays with Red Bull despite the challenges with the RB21. As for McLaren, the strategy is straightforward. Let both drivers race freely and discover who's superior, avoiding any team orders, just like they did at Silverstone. Perhaps Piastri believed his insights were worth sharing, hoping the team might entertain the bold idea of allowing them to compete freely even after Norris pulled ahead by 5 seconds. He might have been replaying the 2024 Hungarian Grand Prix in his mind, recalling how McLaren's strategy fell short. This time, with uncertainty looming over whether the dry tyres were the right call, a gamble also taken by Leclerc, Russell and Hajar McLaren chose to stick with their initial strategy, which proved to be the winning ticket. As Spa and Hungary approach, the stakes are high for Piastri and Norris, given the tight standings in the Drivers' Championship, and it's likely the lead will change hands. When racing is this competitive, the consequences are significant. McLaren is keen to avoid a scenario akin to the Mercedes clash in the 2016 Barcelona Grand Prix. It's almost as if fate is nudging things in that direction already. However, Piastri is poised to channel his frustration into determination for the upcoming race. This fiery resolve could either propel him to greatness or steer him towards chaos. Considering all this, how did Piastri's fierce performance at Silverstone strike you? Do you believe he has a legitimate argument for why the punishment was unnecessary and unjust? Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. See you in the next video.